Next question.
Hi, my name is Arto Rinteela. I'm from the Hilltop area. My question is, California is one of the last strongholds for unions. People come here to work union jobs. I've worked in the unions my entire life. I've worked for Overa. My question is, how can you guarantee that there'll be union jobs? I heard jobs, but I didn't hear the word union.
Therein lies one of the real opportunities. Again, two things. There is in Contra Costa County, and particularly in the energy sector of Contra Costa County, there's a long, long tradition, a very powerful and, in my view, a correct tradition of union. There's two pieces here that are that I would use to answer your question. First of all, the unions in this area are the principal training systems, the unions themselves. You know, okay, the sheet metal workers, the steam fitters, operating engineers, on and on. Virtually every union, including the fire departments, which I'll be meeting with shortly, have a training program underway. And so to be successful, you have to have a highly skilled workforce. It turns out the unions are creating that highly skilled workforce. That is augmented by the federal legislation for energy systems. Most of these are federal tax credit systems, production tax credits and the like. There are different variations on it. For example, if you're going to a solar system, a large one, say for an industrial operation, there's a 35% production tax credit if you have that as a solar, or hydrogen, for example. There's an additional 15% tax credit if there is a training program, apprenticeship training program associated with it. There's a third one. You can get about a 50% production tax credit by combining three different, specifically the one that supports the unions, this was put in specifically to do this, was the apprenticeship training program, literally paid for as part of the system. So those two things operate together. So there you have it. We can't require unions. There's a third one, and this one's going to be a very, very important one. I may go down the rabbit hole here, so forgive me, but it goes back to the offshore wind. I've been involved in that very deeply in Washington, D.C. for policy issues. I'm on the Coast Guard Maritime Subcommittee of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. Been there 13 years. And pushing the maritime industry, the Jones Act, the maritime industry and the like. The offshore wind industry in America starts in Massachusetts and now moving down the East Coast. Unfortunately for America, and this is on the Make It in America agenda, is that the wind industry is essentially a Chinese industry or a European industry. There is no real base in America. And so what we tried to do with legislation, 4 words actually, that I wrote into the Coast Guard law 3 years ago. The Outer Continental Shelf is Jones Act, meaning that work on the Outer Continental Shelf will be done by American vessels, American crews. Now, we ran into a problem of interpretation. Like I said, this is a rabbit hole. Going to be very, very important here. An interpretation of those 4 words. The door was opened and the European companies moved through despite the underlying law and established themselves. So that onshore there was a project labor agreement onshore, but not offshore. So all of the maritime industry was excluded from the opportunities of erecting the towers and servicing the towers going forward. Here in California, we're now working to make sure that doesn't happen. That if we're going to build these extraordinarily important offshore wind systems, that it's going to be done in America. American steel, American products, American turbines, on and on and on. And using a project labor agreement, which has already been put in place for expanding the port in Eureka. We can then make sure that these are highly skilled, highly paid jobs for American workers making the systems. So we're working on that strategy now, and that'll play out here in this area. For example, there's every reason in the world that the steel mill in Pittsburgh could and should produce the steel for the tower itself. And here on the West Coast, it won't only be a tower. East Coast, the tower is stuck on the ground. Here it'll be a floating tower. So who is going to build the float system, which is some sort of a barge, some mechanism upon which a 700-800 foot tower will rest? Where would that be? Where would that steel be rolled? I got a steel mill in my district, folks. Can it be done here? And the answer is yes, it could. So you bring the ingots from wherever, and then you manufacture that steel here for that entire system. So beginning to think about how it all fits together. And that steel mill is a union job.
All right.